there! Welcome back to Annie's Crochet Stripe Afghan Club video tutorial for kit number 9. I'm Lina Skvagersson and I'm excited to be your guide as we continue to make this beautiful stitch sampler. We have completed stripes 1 through 24 and we are ready to begin our next set. Stripes 25, 26 and 27 are filled with new stitches and techniques that are going to add texture to your Afghan. I'm excited to have you join me for these next 3 stripes. In stripe 25, we are going to learn how to crochet diamond stitch texture. This stitch is a great way to add interest in any project, and I use it a lot in my Gansey designs. Next, we will crochet a fillet texture with a simple and cute design. Stripe 27 has a beautiful texture created by front post stitches. Lots of fun techniques to master. These 3 stripes will add lots of interest to your Afghan. Before we begin crocheting, let's review the materials included in the kit and items that you will need to have on hand. In today's shipment, you have received all the yarn you need for stripes 25 through 27. You've got the colors Cappuccino, Seafoam, and Harbor. We have a brand new instruction leaflet, and you have your eye hook, your stitch markers, and the darning needle. You will also need your scissors and a tape measure. Are you ready to begin stripe number 25? We are going to learn the diamond stitch. Let's get started. Stripe 25 with the diamond stitches across is one of my favorite stripes in this Afghan. We are going to test your skills and use a special stitch, the front post treble stitch. We are familiar with the treble stitch and I can't wait to show you how to use them in the diamond stitch. This fascinating stripe will soon be your favorite too. Next up, we'll be working 6 rows with a diamond stitch texture. So on row 3 and on row 5, we will be practicing the fancy stitch called split front post treble crochet 2 together. That'll be fun. Let's get started. I'm ready to start working on row 1. We are going to work with Cappuccino, and you also will need your little stitch marker. So to begin with, I'm going to join the yarn here. We're on the right side, so the previous row starts with the chain 3. So I'm going to go into the top of those chain 3 with my hook, and then yarn over with Cappuccino and pull it through. And then I will chain 3 here at the beginning of the row, and then we're going to work double crochets in the back loops across. So working in the back loops, on each stitch you have 2 loops, a front loop and a back loop. So we're going to be working into the back loops here of each stitch and just double crochets across. So as I start, it also tells me to work, to put a marker in my 4th double crochet. So I'm working here 1, 2, 3, and as you can see, I'm also working around my tail so I don't have to weave it in later. It tells me to put the marker into my 4th double crochet, and I'm going to count my first chain 3 as my first double crochet. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to just slip the marker around that 4th stitch and lock it up so it stays in place, just like that. And then I'm going to keep working my double crochets. And remember, just working into the back loops across, and that's going to leave the front loops creating this little cool ridge here in the front of our work. So at this point, I'm going to let go of my tail, and I'm just going to keep working my double crochet stitches. I'll meet you again at the end of this row. I'm nearing the end of my first row. which has just been double crochet in each stitch across. So put my last double crochet into the last stitch, turn around to wrong side, and another mindless row. We're just going to work double crochet in each stitch going across the back. So again, start your first stitch with a chain 3 and then a double in each double. And now we're working through the top of both loops of each stitch. So work your double crochets across and we'll meet again at the end of the row. I'm at the end of our second row, working my last double crochets here now and placing the last one here at the top of the chain 3. So now we have finished the first 2 rows. That has given us like a solid flat surface where we're now going to have fun putting our front post stitches on top here. So let's get going on our third row. So we're just going to chain 1 here to turn the row, and then we will work a single crochet into our first double crochet. Now we're going to reach here across and we will be working a front post treble around this stitch that we marked back on row 1. So a front post treble, you wrap the yarn twice around your hook. Then go down, reach across, down and around from the front of that next double crochet, yarn over and pull through, and then yarn over and go through the first 2 loops, yarn over, go through your second 2 loops, and yarn over and go through your last 2 loops. Now we can remove this marker if we want, or we can do it later. And if we go back to the pattern, we can see our repetition is about to start. It says to skip the next double crochet on previous row. And if we go back here now and look at the previous row, here you will see your next double crochet that we are supposed to skip. And then we're going to work single crochets in each of these 3 next double crochets. So we're skipping 1, we're working single crochet 1, and the second one is right above that double crochet that we worked around, and then we'll work a third one. Now, when that's done, we're going to do our first front post treble 2 together. And we're going to work this stitch with our first leg around here and our second leg over here. So follow me closely now. We're going to do a treble, so we're going to wrap the yarn twice around our hook. We're going to go and work around the same post as we worked before. Yarn over and pull through. We're yarn over and going through the first 2. Yarn over and go through the second 2, but now leave those 2 loops here on your hook. Now we're going to skip 3 double crochets here on row 1, and we're going to work our next treble here around the 4th one. So wrap the yarn twice around your hook, go around the front here of the stitch that we picked out, pull up a loop and yarn over and go through the first 2, yarn over and go through the second 2, and that leaves us now with 3 loops on our hook, and we yarn over and we pull through all those 3 loops. So there you have our first front post treble 2 together. Now you can go back in the pattern and see that that finishes off our repetition. So if we go back to the beginning of the brackets, it tells us to skip next double crochet on our previous row. You can see how we worked into this one. We're going to skip this next one, and we're going to work single crochet in each of the next 3. So again, our first one single, and then our second one. That's always going to happen right across where we put that last treble. So that's a good way to control that you're on track. We've worked 3 single crochets here now, and next up in the repetition is another front post treble 2 together. So we're going to work around the same post as we placed our last one. So wrap the yarn twice around your hook, go around the post of that stitch, pull up the loop, yarn over, go through the first 2, yarn over, go through the second 2, and now leave those 2 loops here on your hook, skip the next 3, yarn over twice, and then in the 4th one, go around the front post, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through the first 2, yarn over, go through the second 2, and with 3 loops on our hook, we yarn over and go through all 3 loops. Now again, we have 2 treble stitches connected at the top. We will skip the double crochet right behind them, work single in each of the next 3. So 1, 2, and 3. And as you can see here now, we have this zigzag surface texture taking shape. So again, next treble around the same post, yarn over and pull up the loop, yarn over and go through the first 2, yarn over and go through the second 2, leave the last 2 loops on your hook, make a double yarn over, skip 3, go around the post of the next one, pull up a loop, yarn over and go through the first 2, yarn over, go through the second 2, and then yarn over and go through all 3. So that finishes the repetition, and we're going to start over again and just keep repeating this all across, and I'll meet you again at the end of the row. I have just worked my last repetition because it told me to work repetitions across to the last 6 double crochets. And if we turn here now in the back, we can see I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stitches left on the previous row. So at this point, it tells us to skip the next double crochet, single in each of the next 3. So 1, 2, and 3. And then we're just going to work a single front post treble around the same post as our last treble. So wrap the yarn again twice around your hook, go around that same post, go through the first 2, go through the second 2, and go through the last 2. Now we're going to skip the double crochet behind it, and then we're going to work a single crochet at the top here of our chain 3 at the beginning of our previous row. So that finishes off row 3 with all our front post trebles together across. I am now turning to the wrong side again, and we're going to work row 4, which again is just going to be a plain surface row with double crochets in each stitch across. So start with the chain 3 and then just work a double crochet at the top of each stitch across. And as you can see, you will be working into the single crochets as well as into the treble 2 togethers, placing a double crochet in each and every single and treble stitch across. So keep working like this, and I'll meet you again at the end of this row. We have reached the end of row 4, and I'm placing my last double crochet here at the single crochet, the end of the row, and I'm turning around. We're on the right side again, and for row 5, we are going to work our front post trebles again. So starting with chain 1, working single in each of the first 3 stitches. So make sure to go into your first one, and then second one, and then your third one. Now we're going to reach across the front here again, and we're going to work our next front post treble 2 together with our first leg here and then our second leg here. So follow along here now. We are going to wrap the yarn twice, and we are working around this treble stitch. Yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and go through the first 2, yarn over and go through the second 2, and then leaving those 2 loops here on your hook, we are going to work our second leg around this post. So wrap the yarn twice around and then go all around the post here of the stitch, sticking through the fabric underneath here. And then yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and go through the first 2, yarn over, go through the second 2, and now with our 3 loops on the hook, yarn over and go through all 3 loops. So there you can see how that created our first diamond stitch. Now, again, skip the next double crochet and work single into each of the next 3. So 1, 2, and 3. And now our next front post treble 2 together are going to go across and starting, and now we're making sure to get all around everything that's on the surface, and then yarn over and go through first 2 loops, yarn over and go through the second 2, and then with 2 loops on our hook we'll do a double yarn over, and again make sure you put your hook all through there, bring up the loop, yarn over, go through the first 2, yarn over, go through the second 2, and then when you have 3 loops on your hook, you yarn over and go through all those 3. Take a look in the back, skip 1, single into the next 3. So that's our repetition. We're just going to repeat that all across for row 5, and I'll meet you again there at the end of the row. I'm working here on my last front post treble 2 together, working into the last post, going through 2, 3 loops on my hook, yarn over and go through all those 3. And then here in the back, skipping the next double crochet, working single into these next 2 double crochets, and then I have my chain 3, so I'll put a single here at the top of that chain 3, and that finishes off row 5. And now I'll turn to the back again, and for row 6 we're just going to chain 1. We're going to put a single here in the first stitch, and then we're just going to put a single crochet in each stitch across for our last row. So work your singles, and I'll meet you again at the end of the row. We're nearing the end of row 6, so just putting here, stitch into each one here at the end, and in the last one, remember, we're changing into seafoam for our next stripe. So bring in the seafoam and pull seafoam through your last 2 loops. And with that, we can fasten off Cappuccino. And I'm going to turn around, and ta-da! Here is our diamond stitch stripe. Look how pretty. We have finished it, and we are ready to move on. Before we move on, let's take a quick measurement. The stripe is supposed to be 2 1/4, and I'm right on spot. Great, we can continue. Now you know how to work diamond stitches. Let's move on and work some filet crochet. Do you remember earlier stripes when we just worked in double crochet only? This stripe combines these basic stitches with chain spaces to create a clean looking lace design. I also want to mention that this is a great technique to use when you want the same look both on the right side and wrong side of your work, as they both look the exact same. Join me as we begin stripe number 26. Next up is stripe 26 with this basic but oh so cute filet crochet design. We'll be working 5 rows back and forth, starting with a row of singles, ending with a row of singles, and then our filet pattern over these 3 rows. I already have color seafoam on my hook. I'm on the right side and we are ready to start working row 1. So we start with the chain 1 and then we'll be working single crochet in each stitch across, starting here in the very first stitch. So go into the first stitch, work a single, go into your next one, work another single. So this is going to be mindless. We'll just keep working single all the way across and I'll meet you again at the end of this row. I'm at the end of row 1 working my last single crochet. So that finishes row 1 and now we'll turn and work row 2. So this is where we will establish our filet crochet pattern, and the row starts with chain 3 and 7 double crochets across, including this first one, before we actually come to the first repetition. So you've already made the first one in your first stitch, so go into your second stitch, and now starting with this one we'll make 6 double crochet stitches. So that's our 3rd, 4, 5, and 6. So counting the first chain 3, we have 2, 4, 6, and 7. So now we come to the repetition. It tells us to chain 1, skip 1, and then double crochet in each of next 7. So that is the repetition that we will be repeating all the way across this second row. So work your double crochets into each stitch for a total of 7. So that's 5, 6, and 7. And then start your next repetition with chain 1, skip 1, and then double crochet in each of your next 7. So keep repeating that across. You will get these little spaces here, and you can always double check that you have 7 stitches between each of these chain spaces where we skipped a stitch on the row below. So keep repeating this across and I'll meet you again when we are at the end of the row. So I'm working my last 7 stitches in the last repeat, ending with a double crochet here in the last single crochet, the beginning of row 1. So that finishes off row 2, and now we'll turn our work around and we are ready to start working row 3. So for row 3, you will see the pattern tells to start with 1, 2, 3 chains, and then double crochet in each of next 4. So wrap your yarn around the hook, go into your next double crochet, working 1, 2, 3, and 4. And in the pattern, it starts now giving us our next repetition, which is chain 1, skip 1, double crochet in the next double crochet. Double crochet in the chain 1 space. So we go in through the space, bring up the loop of the yarn, yarn over, and work your double crochet. After that, you will do a double crochet in the next one, and then again chain 1, skip 1, and double crochet in each of next 3. 1, 2, and 3. So as you can see here now, it's all about reading your pattern, remembering where you are at and how to repeat your repetition. So for this repetition, we chained one, skipped one, we worked a double into the next double, we worked a double into the chain space, a double into the next one, then another chain space where we skipped one, and then a double in each of the next three. So already now you can see how we're starting to create that little eyelet pattern for our filet crochet pattern. So now I will be repeating that across by starting my next repetition at the beginning of the bracket with a chain one, skip one, double crochet in the next one, double crochet in the chain space, double crochet in the next one, chain one, skip one, and then double crochet in each of the next three. So you keep repeating that across. I have already reached the end of my swatch here now. So as we are at the end of the row, it says that we have 2 more stitches, which I have here at the end of the row. So when you finished all your repeats, you will be working a double crochet into the next double crochet, and then put a double crochet here at the top of those chain 3 at the beginning of previous row. So that finishes row 3. We have kept working in our filet crochet pattern and we'll be turning to work row 4. So for row 4, we will be chaining 3, the beginning of the row, and then double crochet in each of the next 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now we have a repetition starting. So let's follow what it says. It says double crochet in the next chain space. So go into the space to work your double crochet. Then double crochet in next double crochet. We'll chain 1, skip that one, next double crochet, and work a double crochet in the next one. Then double crochet in the next chain 1 space, and then double crochet in each of the next 3 double crochet. 1, 2, and 3. So that finishes our first repetition where we worked double crochet in the chain space, double crochet in the next double crochet, we chained 1, skipped 1, double crochet in the next double crochet in the chain space, and then double crochet in each of next 3. So that's what you will repeat across until you get to the last 2 stitches, and I will meet you there. I've reached the end of my last repetition. I have 2 more stitches left, and we will work double crochets into each one of them. So double in the next double, and double in top of that chain 3 space at the beginning of previous row. So with that, we have finished our 4th row, and we have our cute little pattern there, and we'll be turning to work our last row on this stripe, which is row number 5. And this is, like I said, just a row of single crochet across. So we'll start with the chain 1 and then a single here in the very first double crochet, and then work a single crochet in each stitch across. And when you come to the chain spaces, you will also place a single crochet into the chain space. So in each stitch and in each chain space across. So here I am now at a chain space, so I'll just work a single in the chain space and then make sure to put my next single in the next double crochet. So keep working like this across, and I'll meet you again at the end of the row. I'm nearing the end of row 5, working my last 2 single crochets, placing the last one out here at the top of the chain 3 pulling through a loop, and now we're going to change color. So bring in the color Harbor and wrap the Harbor around the hook and pull it through the last 2 loops and then tighten. So we can now fasten off the seafoam, and I'll tie those tails together. And with that, we have now finished our filet crochet stripe. The pattern says the stripe is supposed to be 1.5 inches, so I'll bring in my tape measure, and just to double check, we are at 1.5 inches. We are done with filet crochet. Let's move on to stripe number 27. In stripe 27, we are going to learn how to work front post double crochet stitches combined with regular double crochet stitches, as well as single crochet stitches, to create a popular and very useful texture. Mix a lot of what we have learned together, and we have a completely stunning stripe to add to your Afghan. Let's get started. Next up is this super cool looking front post texture. We will be working a total of 6 rows back and forth, and on all the right side rows we will be working these front post stitches that gives this bubbly nice surface texture. So our last stripe ended here on the right side, and we have Harbor on our hook, but we will turn around so that we can start working row 1 of our next stripe here on the wrong side. So we start by chaining 3. 1, 2, and 3. Now we're going to work double crochets in the front loops, and for this pattern, that's these stitches here, the loops that are facing towards you. So tilt the top edge a little bit towards you, and then work your double crochets starting here in the second one into that front loop only, leaving the back loop not worked into. So double crochet and double crochet, make sure just go into that front loop facing you and work your double crochet stitches in each stitch across. And by doing this, working in just one of the loops, I'm going to tilt over, and as you can see, it will leave these back loops unworked, so it's going to create a little ridge there on our right side. Just an added texture for our Afghan, and we keep working our double crochets across. So in each stitch, and then I'll meet you again at the end of the row. I'm nearing the end of the row, working my last 2 double crochets across. If you have any doubt at this point, you can count your stitches. You're supposed to have a total of 135 stitches across. I am ready to work row 2 of the pattern. So row 2 starts with a chain 2. So a chain 2 replaces having a half double crochet here at the beginning of your row. Then we start a repetition where it tells us to work a front post double crochet. So you wrap the yarn around, and instead now of going into the top of the stitch, we will be going around the post. So pushing the post out to the front, we're pulling up a loop behind it, and then yarn over, go through the first 2 stitches, loops, and then through the second 2 loops. So that's our first front post double crochet around this second double crochet stitch on the row below. Now we'll be working a double crochet in the next double crochet. And as you can see, we have a short repetition. So this is what we will be repeating across. We'll make a double crochet around the post in the front of the stitch, and then we'll make a double crochet into the next double crochet. A front post double crochet in the next one, and a double into the next one. So keep working this repeat across. You're going to get every other stitch raised here on the front side with the double crochets on top of each other. On the back, it's looking like this. We get all the raised stitches facing our front of the work. So we'll keep working and I'll meet you again at the end of the row. I'm at the end of row 2. I've worked my last repetition and now it tells me to work one more front post double crochet, and then we're going to end the row with a half double crochet at the top here of the chain 3, the beginning of previous row. So that was a half double. We pulled through all the 3 loops we had on our hook, and we have now finished our row 2. So turn over to the wrong side again, and we are ready to work row 3. And so for row 3, we're just going to chain 1. We're going to make a single crochet here in the very first stitch into the half double that we made at the end of previous row, and then we will be working a single in each stitch across. So 1, 2, and so on. Keep just working your single crochets, and I'll meet you again at the end of the row. I'm coming towards the end of the row, working a single and a single, and want to just make sure that you remember to also put a single here at the top of these chain 2 that we had at the beginning of previous row. So that finishes up row 3, and we'll turn to work our row 4. So now it's time for us to work front post stitches again, but not on top of the front post stitches we already made, because that would give us the rib texture we've seen before. But now we will be offsetting them. So we'll start by a chain 2, and then we will work a double crochet in the next single crochet, like that. And then we will work a front post double crochet around the next double crochet 2 rows below. So we had single crochets here on the previous row, but we have double crochets down here. So our next front post, we're going to wrap the yarn around, and we'll go down and around the post of that double crochet 2 rows below. So we'll work our front post double crochet there, and then the repetition starts again with the double crochet in the next single. So we'll work a double in the next single, then repeat, yarn over, go down around the post of the double crochet 2 rows below, finish up that double crochet, and then work next double crochet in top of the next single crochet. And you can always make sure to see that you work in the stitch, the double crochets that you work in a single is always the one on top of the front post stitch below, and then the next one goes into that double crochet in between the front post stitches below. So we will just keep repeating like this all across this row, and I'll meet you again at the end of the row. I'm coming towards the end of row 4. I have 2 last single crochets. So I will work a double crochet into the next one, and then in the last one I will be placing a half double crochet. So just go into that last one, pull up a loop, yarn over, and go through all 3 loops on your hook. So that finishes row 4. We will be turning to work row 5, which is just a repetition of row 3. So we'll chain 1, work a single into the very first one, the half double we made, and then a single in each stitch across. So keep working your singles across, and I'll meet you again at the end of that row when it's time for us to work our last row. I'm coming to the end here now of row 5. I have 2 more stitches at the end of the row. So I'll work a single on top of that stitch there, and then I have my chain 2. So go into the top of the chain 2 and place your last single crochet there. So that finishes off row 5, and I'm ready to work our last row 6. So for row 6, we again will be working our front post double crochets, and we will be working around the stitches, around the double crochet stitches here 2 rows below. So let's get started. We'll do a chain 2, and then right away it tells us to work a front post around the next double crochet 2 rows down. So find that double crochet, work around the post, yarn over, go through 2, go through 2, and then for the repetition is a double crochet into the next single. So the double crochet here at top, right above that front post we did previously, and then the repetition says go into the next double crochet below and work around the post. And then we're technically skipping that single crochet behind it and working a double crochet into the next single crochet. And then again, the front post down in the double crochet below, and a double crochet in the next single crochet. So that's now, we can see creating the texture where we have these offset front post stitches, and we will just now keep working like that till the end of the row, and I'll meet you there. I'm coming to the end here now on row 6. I have 2 more stitches to work, so I will do a front post double around that last double crochet below, and then go back up to the last stitch here, the last single crochet, and I will place a half double crochet here in my last single crochet. So that finishes off our last row of this front post texture. We will fasten off and just pull that tail through. And before we're all done, I'm just going to bring my tape measure in and see. The pattern tells us it's supposed to be measuring 2 inches. And it does. So we're good. We're all done. With stripes 25, 26, and 27, you learned how to crochet one of my favorites, the diamond stitch, and how to combine many basic stitches and techniques in different ways to create a very unique look. I look forward to seeing you in about a month in our next installment of the Annie's Crochet Stripe Afghan Club, where we will make our last 3 stripes. You will learn how to create a row of hearts, how to work reverse single crochet to create 3-dimensional ridges across, and how to create another interesting colorwork stripe by using spike stitches. Until we meet again, have a good time crocheting!